So welcome to the Big Price Podcast. I have Lily and Blaine Kosek.
Kosek. Let's try that again.
Kosek. All right. I will try it again.
Okay.
Welcome to the Big Price Podcast. I have Lily and Blaine Kosek.
Kosek, yeah.
I always say it right every time I meet you guys.
Yeah.
So you always pat me on the back for getting that right. But you guys have, 24 units here in Chicago? 24 doors.
24 doors. They're not just in Chicagoland. We do have Wisconsin and Florida also.
Okay.
18 properties total.
Wow.
That we own. Yeah, and then we do like short-term rental and mid-term rental property management for clients, and we have 50 listings that we manage.
So is this all Airbnbs or rental properties?
Most of them, I think pretty much most of them are all marketed on Airbnb and Vrbo, but we market them across like other platforms and things like that
Well,
too.
the business that we have that has 50 listings, that's all Airbnb. It's like short, mid-term type rentals.
Yep.
Our personal properties is a mix of long-term, mid-term, and short-term rentals.
So before you kind of started in real estate, right?
Well, we were both teachers for 11 and 18 years, and then we transitioned into real estate.
Gotcha. So when you were teaching, was it music?
PE.
PE.
But I do have a music background.
Yeah, you have a little guitar songwriter background, don't you?
I do, yes.
I was trying to get a guitar here. And
I would have loved to. Anytime there's a guitar in a room, I can't not pick it up.
So I went back through Instagram, went all the way back to the beginning.
Oh, God.
And like the third post is you playing guitar and singing a song. It's like a minute or whatever song. And I was like, can we get a guitar in here? Like, I would love to just
should have told me.
like, be like,
He
oh, hey, look at here.
to me playing a song.
He did.
Yes, he did.
Tell me that story.
You know what? It's on YouTube somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, you might not want to look that up.
I don't think it's good quality. Yeah. Pulled me up on stage at an open mic and sang us.
Dingy little bar in Chicago.
It was, it was very dingy, honestly.
What was the song?
I actually wrote it. It's a song that I wrote and included some Polish.
He included
lyrics
"Will You
into
Marry
it.
Me" into the song. So,
Wow,
yeah.
in
And there was
Polish.
Polish too. And
It
then
was
after I said yes, which was a good thing for him, I looked up and it was a bunch of our family members were there. I had no idea.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
It was an open mic, so they have open mics all over the country, whatever. So I used to go to open mics a lot after I was done with my band that I was in for years, and I just planned it at this open mic, and it was, like I said, kind of a little dingy bar, but
Yeah.
I had all of our family kind of sneak in after I was already on stage, and then I brought her up for like the last song.
Cool. So did you play like a bunch of songs in a row and then that was like the last song, or was it?
There was like 4 songs. I played a couple of covers, an original, and then that final original.
What's your favorite song to play as a cover?
As a cover song?
Yeah.
Right now, it's probably like Tom Petty or Zach Brown.
Okay. Zach Brown. I like it.
Yeah.
A little country vibe in there.
Yeah, a little bit.
Little country fried.
I used to I used to not really have any interest in country until Zach Brown came around, so
Yeah.
he turned it for me.
Well, and you guys haven't never been to Texas, so.
True.
But I've been to Nashville a bunch of times, which is Music City.
Yeah,
but, yeah.
Nashville isn't Texas.
I was waiting to hear how that works. We've been to Montana, but for a very short period of time.
It was like a
few
last
times,
WalkCon when Taylor Welsh was up on stage and he was like, where you from? I'm like, Texas. And he was like, Nashville's better. And I was like, oh, you're ready to fight, So I went backstage afterwards and I was like, you still think Nashville's better? And he's like, no, you're right.
He's ready to throw down, and then he took it all back.
Changes when you're up on stage looking down at me, right? So.
Well, we hear it different. We tell people we're from Chicago, and it's either people that have visited, they're like, oh, it's really nice in Chicago, or the reaction is like, wait, so like, do you hear gunshots everywhere you go?
Oh my
It's
gosh.
like, no, we're pretty safe.
Yeah, they're like, we're on the good side of the tracks.
Yeah. Now we are.
Yeah. Well, you guys keep moving further out too, right? Because you started kind of in the city.
Yeah, we were in the city, but
I grew up on the south side of Chicago and then moved to the north side. That's where we met. And then that's where we actually kind of backed into real estate investing.
Yeah.
I bought a 3-flat with 2 of my buddies right by Wrigley Field.
Okay.
And we lived there for years. And then when she moved in with me, we were kind of getting to that point where we were going to buy a house in the burbs. And we decided to Airbnb it. And this was back in 2011, 12?
2012, I think.
12. So Airbnb was really new at that point. Chicago had no ordinances. It was like, do whatever you want.
Yep.
We left all our furniture there. We just took pictures, put it on there. It was minutes.
I
And it
think
was
we
like,
had a reservation 2 days later. We had no place to live.
You gotta move.
Oh, wow. So what'd you do?
Went to my mama's.
Yeah.
Nice.
Crawled back into her mom's upstairs.
But that was lovely, huh?
Luckily, I love her parents, so it worked out. But yeah, I mean, we were paying $1,600 a month in mortgage, and that first booking was like a 2-week booking, and it was like $2,000.
Yeah.
We were like, wait a second.
We're onto something here.
Yeah, and then we were just focused on buying a house at that point, so we were just kind of figuring out how to because we were not living in the city anymore, so we need to hire cleaner and maintenance people, and like all these things just kind of came to fruition, and we just kind of forgot about it as we were looking to buy houses in the burbs. So it's kind of crazy that we're like full circle on this now. It's like we talk about what we got now. We have 13 of our own Airbnbs. We manage 50, and we had this gap where we did no Airbnb.
Wow.
Just because the city shut us down, and then we went back to long-term rentals, and then we started just doing this BRRRR and long-term rent. And we're like, wait a second.
And then we realized too, when you have one Airbnb, it's actually really difficult because you can get you'll have cleanings 2 days a week, and then all of a sudden you get a booking for 6 weeks, which is a magical thing until you realize you need to get that place cleaned, and then you lose your cleaner because she had just hadn't worked in 6 weeks. And so then once we decided to do it again, we're like, well, now we're going to do it, but we're going to do it at scale, and we're going to be the best at it. And ultimately in the Chicago market, like if you stay at an Airbnb in Chicagoland area, you'll probably stay in one of our listings. Awesome. Either one of our own or one that we manage for a client.
Well, I'm sorry I didn't get to stay in yours. I wanted to be close to the studio, for
we'll
today,
get some
tomorrow. And I appreciate the offer, though.
Yeah.
So if we would have done this not at a studio, and we were just done it with my traveling setup, I would have loved to stay in an Airbnb, because instead of booking 2 hotel rooms, you can just do an Airbnb, and you can do the setup in there, and it just makes so much sense. So
yeah, for sure.
We've had people book our Airbnbs for that exact situation. They're like doing some sort of footage for whatever it is, or they're doing podcasts or
one was
singing.
a Jewel Super Bowl commercial.
Yeah.
It was in a Airbnb that we actually own and designed, and that was really cool.
When we saw the commercial,
so
we're
cool.
like, you see it?
See that place? That's our place.
It's like, so my uncle, he owns classic limousines in California and Kauai. Well, he's been on multiple music videos, like Beyonce's music video, and it's like a shot of him a minute in where he's under this rainmaker, and Beyonce and her girls come walking out, and he's holding an umbrella, and they walk into his limo. I'm like, that's my uncle. I know that guy. So it's super funny.
Yeah, that's cool. One of the things that a lot of people ask us all the time is, how do we go from, one investment property to 24 units in 4 years' time while having 2 kids and living through, construction.
And ultimately, we really were on 2 teacher salaries in the beginning. And so, because I think
that's crazy.
I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, you guys had the funds. And it was like, no, we didn't.
Yeah.
No, we didn't.
And both of us love teaching, it wasn't like, I'm going to get out of teaching.
No.
I was a Chicago public school teacher, and, I was in what I call the fantasy land of Chicagoland. It was like a nice little area of Chicago, great kids, great parents. And, but I just started looking at my pension and how many years left and where I was in the pay scale. And I'm like, I'm stuck. I'm not going to make any more money, where I'm at. I have 2 master's degrees. So we just started talking about, okay, what can we do? And, real estate was something that came up, and she was like, do it, go get your license, and didn't. And then the next year it came up again. So then that just that lit the fire, right? I went and got my license and didn't really know if it was going to take off or not. I was teaching, kind of doing realtor stuff on the side in between classes and after school, in between coaching. And then it just started getting better and better and better.
What year was that?
2018 is when I got my license. And then I started building up a really solid client funnel, mostly through family and friends and just colleagues. And then right when 2020 hit, everybody knows the market started going crazy, right? And then that's where everything kind of took off. And I was almost losing clients because I had to go teach. And then I was like, well, wait a second, I just lost this $1 million buyer client because I have to go teach. That payout would have made in like 4 months of teaching. So I was like, okay, this is where I have to make that decision. And it was like midsummer, getting ready to I felt bad for my principal because I probably told him a little bit later than I should have, but it was like, I got to make this decision. And he was really cool about it, but I could hear him deflate. So I was, not only I had been at that school for 18 years, I was also like our youth mental health coach. So I was putting out fires all day long with teenagers, But yeah,
like, oh no, what are we gonna do now?
Yeah.
They're doing fine without me. But yeah, I mean, I was a big player in just kind of peace circles and kind of bringing kids together and alleviating issues.
So is that something? Let me ask you this: is that something you still love to do? Is that something you are back into, or is
all of our LLCs for the most part are mindset something?
Okay.
So we have mindset management, mindset real estate, mindset just every. So I mean that is a huge piece I think in everything.
And to be quite honest, being a teacher to being a realtor, the transition is great because you're working with people, you're a problem solver. But then being a landlord, it's the same thing. I have tenants calling me and I'm talking to them through different situations. There was one time where I had two tenants and they thought they were going to be boyfriend and girlfriend. Well, the boyfriend was wrong. And she was bringing guys over and he's living in the other bedroom and he's getting mad. So he calls me, I want to move out. I'm going to sublet my unit. I'm like, no, you're not going to sublet. I don't allow that. So we have to figure this out. So I'm like, put on that, hat and just all right, we're going to have a 3-way call. I'm going to talk about this. And I was able to get them to kind of understand the situation, get through the end of this lease. And then he moved out and she got a girlfriend to move in. But it's just put me back into that teacher kind of mindset. And it comes back all the time.
Well, I think that just anything in either not just real estate, but anything in when you're the front man or you're the front woman, you're the owner, you're got into that position because you had the smarts to figure it out, right? So I think I experience some of that sometimes too, where it's somebody needs help with a little education on some aspect of their life, and I'm like, how can I help you, right? Not that I have it all figured out, but I should have my stuff together running a company like I do, right? Absolutely. And you guys too, you have your stuff together more than the average person.
Yeah, and then ultimately all this extra money that he was making as a real estate agent, he was initially we were paying everything off. So we're like, let's pay off our car. We were really trying to get ourselves financially stable. And all the while we were rehabbing a home that needed a full gut rehab and living in it. So we essentially bought in a great neighborhood, a home that we couldn't afford, and we were just doing all the work ourselves. And he was really seeing the value of how much our home was worth and how much other homes are worth. He'd get a client they purchased. I remember purchased a home or something. I think it was with a pool, and they sold it exactly a year later. And it was I don't know, $100,000 more. They hadn't done a thing to it. And so I think he was really realizing oh my gosh, you know what I mean? That is more than our salary, one of our salaries. And so we were really trying to figure that out. And so ultimately in 2020, we got a home equity line of credit on our home that had quite a lot of equity. We were in there for 7 years. Our kids were
sweat equity.
Sweat equity. It was, Our kids were 3 and 5 at the time. And we were able to pull out $110,000, and we're like, now what do we do with this money? So
party time.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people do, but we did.
Start a podcast.
Let's do it.
Play some more guitars.
Yeah,
think of a lot of things to do with that money, couldn't we?
But we
didn't.
Back.
We didn't, and actually, we were almost stingier than ever. I think we were really holding on to every damn dollar we could. And so we used that money and we bought 3 more. We used it as down payments for 3 more properties. All 3, one was another primary residence. So essentially we moved out of that, turned it into a rental, and moved into this new fixer-upper, live and flip. But then the 2 more were actually like real properties that we were going to rehab and then get a tenant in, and it's like the burst strategy, right? And like refinance on it. And so we just kept recycling that money. And I don't know, the first year I think we bought 9 properties just doing that. And it was, we kind of realized we could do it, and then we sped everything up once we kind of turned one into a short-term rental.
Awesome.
And it's just like a point of reference. We went from making $600 net cash flow to $6,000 a month. And that was more than my take home from teaching. And I also have 2 master's degrees. So like in teaching, if you have more degrees, you can make more money.
Yep.
So I was like, oh my God, like I don't even have to work. Like, this is crazy.
Now you work 24/7.
Now
Yeah. So you quit your job and then you go work for yourself.
Yeah, I had the summers off and now I don't.
Yeah.
It was great.
It's funny that you said that we sped up from there, because you think about 9 properties, like the bags have not gone away.
No.
Like we were moving really fast, and then to speed up from there, it's like, how much harder can you push down on the gas pedal?
So is there a number of doors you guys want to get to, or is there a plateau point?
It's weird because and I don't know if you'd agree, I think you'd probably be on the same page, but it's like more of the freedom is now the goal, because I think initially the goal was like, oh wow, like I could be there to walk our kids to school, which we do. Like everything we do, we base it around our family. But we are damn busy. We've got like 4 businesses right now, and we are so busy and spread pretty thin. And so I think right now the goal is like, what number do we need to get to find someone that can run this thing, like be my COO, and I can, you know what I mean? Like I can come to the once a week meeting.
Do you have any staff in right now, or do you have any staff on?
We do have
other than
staff,
like cleaners
and we're looking to hire on another bigger hire, and we did speak with Sharper, business, and like we're making all the right steps, but I think the issue
we have 1 employee.
We started right, for hospitality, but we have like cleaning managers and like the whole cleaning crew is that's like set.
But now you got to start plugging your employees into the business.
Right. I think the issue is we have 50 listings, essentially 4 clients. We'll have 50 in a week. So probably for sure by the time this airs, but we did that in 2 years. So we don't have all the right systems in place. So now it's really like writing everything down, like, you know what I mean? Like all these things are here, right?
Yeah.
And like my other employee knows, and Blaine is involved too. And it's like the 3 of us like know what we're doing, but now like trying to portray that to somebody else, that's been the challenge. And so we're kind of getting to a place to, hopefully by the end of the summer, I'll be able to find like, for me, it's like that unicorn, but.
Well, it's like, summer, huh? Wow, coming fast. It's like, didn't know.
Talk about speed.
Oh yeah, it's happening.
One of the things, I'm working on right now is kind of doing the same thing with my business, right? So I've been a solopreneur, basically. Like I have an operator that's been working for me for the last 9 weeks or so now, running equipment, because I've front end and back end, pre-sale and then post-sale as well. So I do both sides of it in development. But hiring that operator has been magical for me. So I think you step out of the cat, step out of the equipment, go do my other business, able to start a podcast, right? Doing all these things I want to do. So now I'm trying to plug other pieces in. But like you said, the processes, but it's really hard to convey that exact same thing to the next one. So me and Monica have been talking. I was like, maybe you should just come work for me. She's like, I'm ready. Just tell me what I'm going to do. And I'm like,
she gonna be driving the cat?
No, just more like on the business side. I mean, she's done it once where I had a feeder in the back of my truck, and I like pulled it up to the front of the truck, made sure like the arm wasn't going to hit the back of the truck. And I was like, all I need you to do is go in and pull this one back and lift it up. I'm going to push it in and then set it back down. And she's like in high heels. She's like, you should have told me this is what we were doing.
She's so cute.
That's a great reel, right?
Yeah.
So how did you, if you don't mind me asking, like get to that point where, number one, when you knew it was time to hire that operator, and then once you found that person, how did you kind of come up with the role, like that?
I've gotten so lucky with Mike. So Mike's actually a temporary employee. He's actually this week's his last week working for me. One of my buyers of the ranchettes was needing some trees cleared. He's like, I would love to help. So he came out, and Mike was his brother-in-law. And Mike's like this young kid, he's like 21. He's like, I can run that. And I was like, I don't know, but Mike was like, he can run it. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I threw him on it. Like, it's like dozer. You can't brake much on it. It's like goes pretty slow. It's not like a skid steer where you can move fast and you throw tracks and stuff. But anyways, I threw him on it, and he was doing really good. So then Mike was like, yeah, I'm going to hire him, but I can't hire him until he gets to his 2-year CDL point because he runs a trucking company. And I was like, how long is that out? And he's like, that's in May. And I'm like, well, what if I hire him until May? So I'm getting behind the work. I have 200 some hours I need to execute on. And he's like, yeah, no, that'd work. So I actually hired Mike on for the time period in between. Okay. Now this is his last week. But it was kind of more out of necessity for me because I'm like, got all that stuff to do. I have 200 hours that I need to perform on, equipment hours that I need to perform on. And it's 200 hours in a cab machine that my hands are busy, my feet are busy, like my mind's busy, nothing else is happening when I'm doing that. Just doing 40 hours is like sucking the energy out of me. So that's kind of how that came to be. But I got lucky with Mike. I didn't have to, make SOPs or anything. I was like, hey, Mike, this is the list I need done. Clear those trees, move those rocks. And he was just like, cool. And he takes great care of the equipment, maintenance all the time, fixes stuff all the time. He was homeschooled. And he kind of has that in his blood, I would say. Yeah. So it just made sense. Now I'm like, oh man, I'm losing Mike. Like that is like one of those one-off opportunities. And I'm like,
that's like that's like days away.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's Friday. But we're getting the last it's kind of nice because I only had, I don't have consistent work either. Okay. So I only sell to my clients. So basically what I do is I go in and pre-develop on the acreage. So I go in and clear some trees, make pathways so you can look at the land. But then with the sell, we give them like 100 to 200 hours of credit hours to go in and further develop, customize to whatever they want. So on the back end, post-sell, they pay for it with that sell, and then we go in and take care of it after that.
That's so smart.
So
now when you're developing this acreage, this is all through like the county? Do you have to like put in different roadways and all of that?
No, so we're in an agricultural exempt. We do not have to plat. It's actually just became state law in Texas. So anytime you're over 10 acres and it's agricultural, there's actually a bigger law in it. I don't want to get crazy into the weeds, but with agricultural, anything over 10 acres used for agriculture, that you're not building public roadways, not building public utility lines, that's kind of thing, you can do it without plats. So you basically tell the county what you're going to do instead of asking for permission. So that's it's a little bit to the bad side for like people will take advantage of it, right? So a lot of guys are just buying land, splitting up in 10-acre sections or 10.01, literally, like just to get over that cusp, don't have to plat, but then the owner that buys that property has to keep 10 acres for agricultural, or they lose their tax exemption. And then instead of paying $100 in tax a year on that property, they're paying $10,000 in taxes. So they're buying up all these 10-acre tracts now, and they're like, oh, I can't build a house on it? This was my dream property. I'm going to build a house on it. You build a house on it. Now it becomes 9.5 acres, right?
Oh, so they just subtract whatever the acreage of that home?
Yep. And there's ways to get around it with like auxiliary stuff, like not to get off in the weeds too much, but right now they're getting around it by doing auxiliary house. Like we're building this house so that we can raise cattle because we got to be around the cattle, which is fine right now because we're in a very red state. Everybody's red in Texas right now, but it's turning purple, right? Turning blue. And eventually that becomes less of a concern for the blue state, when it becomes blue. So then it's like, are you going to be grandfathered in? I hope so, but there's that factor where you're not. So we only sell anything under 10 acres. We don't sell anything under 11 acres. So you're always protected. Even if like the clients will come up, I want 10 acres. No, you don't. You want 11.
Wow. Yeah. I've heard Texas is like its own little country.
Yeah, it is. It really is. I mean, I love it. I grew up in North Dakota. So moving down to Texas was, I always tell people I got here as soon as I could, right?
When did you make that move?
2013.
Okay.
So funny enough, I moved down to be a tour manager for a rock band.
Oh, I do remember you telling me a little bit about this, but I want to hear some more.
So, oh man, I was working an oil field up in North Dakota, and my crew that I was rolling with got in a car accident. And you see them all the time in North Dakota, like especially in the wintertime. You get people from Texas, Louisiana, southern states, Georgia coming up to work in North Dakota because it's good money, but they don't know how to drive on roads. They're driving on roads. You know, it's all icy.
Yeah.
It's kind of like here, right? But they're all from the South, right? They don't ever have that experience. So, anyways, it wasn't even icy, but it was raining really hard. Truck ended up front ending one of my crew's pickup. I got pulled out of the truck like an hour prior, right? And I got put on a different crew. So I was looking at that pickup when we literally went to clean up after the accident. I'm looking at that pickup and all the blood all over the place, and I'm like, damn, that could have been me. You know, so it kind of scared me, and I was like, I need to get out of here.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what I was going to do, but my buddies were like, hey, you want to go to Texas and be your tour manager? I was like, what does that pay? And they're like, well, it doesn't. I'm like, great, I'm in.
You can't say no to that, right?
Yeah, like that's a once in a lifetime opportunity.
To tune some guitars on stage.
Yeah. So it was fun.
What kind of band was it?
It was like a rock band, like alternative rock band.
And that was just in Texas area?
So what they were trying to do, they were basically any show they booked in Texas, they could fill it out, you know, or pack the place out. But they were kind of trying to go national. So they're touring with a bigger group, trying to get national. Ended up didn't making it, obviously, because I'm not a tour manager anymore.
I'm sure you have quite a few stories.
Oh, man, stories I don't want to tell on camera.
Right.
Yeah, no, we had some crazy experiences. But that's why I moved to Texas.
And this was recent, so this was 2013, right?
Yeah.
You were doing that?
Yeah, 11 years ago, if you call that recent.
Yeah.
I do. Recent.
Yeah.
His age is coming out.
Then I went back into fiber optics. We're drilling oil field work down in Texas. A little more safe down there. Same work. Did that for another 4 or 5 years. Ended up getting promoted all the way up to director of field ops for a new company. Got up to like 40 some employees. And I was like, it was right around the boom of COVID boom. So we hit COVID and we had like 25 employees, and everybody went home. They're like, our internet sucks. We need internet. We want fiber.
Right.
So I didn't even know what COVID was. Like people talk about it today, they're like, yeah, we were at home playing with the kids, playing games. And I was like, I was working overtime, every week of COVID. So we just blew up and we grew up to like 45 employees. And I told them, I was like, I want some ownership in this company, right? I was the first employee. I've helped you grow this all the way up. And they were like, no. And I was like, all right, peace. I was like, so I literally just quit without knowing what to do. I had a little bit of nest egg and went into real estate. Figured it out. Lost my nest egg in the process, but ended up gaining it back, And
you went right into the ranch style stuff, like right away?
I went right into wholesaling.
Oh,
so
okay.
I had a buddy down in San Antonio, and he's like, come down, figure this out to help me. And I was like, cool. So I went down to San Antonio and started learning from him. And I was like, well, this is cake. Like, I see him doing it. If he can do it, I can do it. Right? So then I started doing some wholesaling stuff, wholesale land, houses. But I never really liked wholesaling. I was like, I want to get a ranch because that's what he was doing. He was doing ranches.
Okay.
And I was like, I want to find my own ranch. So I found my own ranch, ended up closing out with creative financing, brought no money to the closing table, got paid $300 at the closing table, or $300,000 at the closing table. And the rest has been history, right? But it was just like, this is awesome. You can do this.
Is that deal still intact right now?
Yep.
It is.
So I got 2 tracts left. I have a 45-acre tract and a 12-acre tract. So originally it was 222 acres. And those are the last 2 tracts left. So about 50 acres, 3/4.
Have you paid off the creative?
So almost.
Almost.
Yep. So it was like the 45-acre tracts and sell for $1.3 million. And on that, I'll make about $1 million profit on that.
Awesome.
So he gets paid first in the way we did it.
Okay.
That way he doesn't have any, shared risk with me, basically. So
Right.
he gets paid off. Closing cost comes out of it. I get paid a tiny bit just for my own doing, right, relatively. And then at the end, I make my bulk of the money.
That's awesome. We just met Pace. I think, did you meet him too?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I love talking about creative finance. We have a couple deals that we've managed through creatively.
Yep.
And how did you like structure that offer?
Man, so it was originally I went in as a wholesale. Like I was like, I'm getting this at a really good price. I'll be able to sell this to a developer. Or at least I thought I was going to be able to. Ended up running into a bunch of roadblocks with water, and it was on a county line. So Comal County didn't want to provide water to Kendall County, even though it's like right there across the county line. Developers wouldn't touch it. So I was like, well, I still have a good deal. Now I just got to figure out how to take this thing down myself. So that's when I started getting into more of the creative, and they're like, okay, I just need to figure out a way to take this down. I have no money, relatively, I have no money, and I got to figure out how to take down a $3.7 million ranch. So I had, built up contacts, title company, brokers, attorneys, my mentor, and I brought them all into the room together with the seller, and I told him to bring his attorney. He brought his attorney, and they sat down, and I said, here's my plan. We're going to do this where it's a partnership between us. I'm going to cut profits with you, and I'm not going to give you any money down. And he was like, I like it, but I want $300,000. All right, cool. Like that. Cool. So I had to figure out how to come up with $300,000 now.
A lot easier than 3.7
yeah,
million.
exactly. So I got a couple soft commitments to raise that money, and we ended up signing the contract, put in the contract that we could list it as soon as possible. So we listed the very next day. We had the contract signed, listed it. Very next day, somebody came in about 60 acres. We were only trying to sell 30. And then we used that money as a partial double close. Got a amendment to the contract. We could use some of that money, and took $400,000 of the first money, paid all the closing costs and everything out. Gave the seller, which thought he was going to get $300,000. He got $1 million on closing day, and then we took the rest to do development.
I
Wow,
love that
what a
creative
story.
stuff. I also was a big art person growing up as well, but not to go against all the big banks and everything, but like when I can structure a deal creatively, it's like so much better in my opinion. And it's just interesting because the banks make it easy, right? You're going to pay us a lot of money, this interest rate, we're going to take care of everything.
Yep.
But if you have the vision and you can explain that vision to a seller and get him to understand or her to understand it,
Yep.
it could be better for both sides.
Well, it was beautiful from the very start of that deal. I came out as a young guy in my 30s. He's looking at me. He's 70. At the time, he was 77, right? And he point blank looked at me. He goes, I know what you're doing. And I said, what was that? And in wholesaling, you don't know.
Right.
I'm honest. So he goes, I know what you're doing. I said, what's that? He goes, you're speculating. I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, you think you're going to be able to sell my land for more than I'm selling it to you. And I said, that's exactly what I'm doing. He goes, I'm good with that. So from the very start, before we even signed the contract, he knew what I was doing. He was okay with it. There was no, now when I'm selling these ranches for I'm breaking them up and creating more value with them. But I'm selling for almost double what I bought it for. He's like, cool. Like, I'm happy for you. Keep sending me money.
Yeah, because
right?
he knows there's a lot of work behind
exactly.
getting that done, and he doesn't want to deal with that.
Exactly. So we're basically retiring them.
But so much like what you have done too is like through networking too. You're like, yeah, I found this buddy. I moved down to Texas, and then I found this buddy. I started wholesaling. But like, it's so true. Like, you don't know who you're gonna meet that's gonna like change the the trajectory of like either your life or your next 10 years or. It's crazy.
Well, that's what I'm trying to explain to Monica right now, and my parents, because they're a kind of a business consultant. They're like, why are you doing this podcast? And I'm like, listen, all the stuff that I've been able to do is just like you said, through my network.
Yeah.
I get to grow my network through this. Yep. Right? I don't know who the next person is. It might be a follower. It might be somebody I talked to on podcast. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. I just know that if I build my network, good things happen. Right?
Opportunities come. Did you build any networking through that roadie gig other than transplanting yourself?
Yeah, other than like just a couple contacts. Not really. I mean, it was more just fun than anything. I mean, one of the people we toured with came from a big band. I don't want to say the name, but he was touring with a smaller band, but his original band was bigger. Like, there were millions of followers. So when we first walked into the green room the first day on tour, he's sitting there and he's like, oh, what are you guys' names? And we're talking. And one of my buddies is like, I think that's so-and-so. And he's like, are you? And he goes, yeah. And everybody's like, like their minds blown, right? We're like, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, I play drums for them. And I'm like, what the heck, So that was a cool relationship. Like, and I think that kind of taught me like how to network with people nowadays, like Brian Pineda or Pace or anybody like that. Like they're just normal people, right? And a lot of people don't see that.
100%.
They get in front of them, they shake, and they're like,
Starstruck.
"Oh, I like your hair," and it's like, Ryan, you know how many times Ryan's heard, "I like your hair," like that's his thing, right? It'd be like somebody would come up and be like, "I like your cowboy hat." Well, thank you, but like, what else is it? What else are we going to talk about? You know?
Right. We need something. Give us some suggestions. How should we like brand ourselves?
Oh man, I don't know. That's people have asked me that before, and I'm like,
Strap a guitar on my back, bring it.
So I was
Hey.
thinking initially,
Yeah.
like I would wear pink because I do wear a lot of pink, which I'm wearing pink now, but I don't have that many outfits. But then you're not going to wear pink.
I wouldn't do pink though.
No.
Women wear pink, right?
Not all
And you want to pop. That's the whole thing with the cowboy hat is it makes me pop out in the room, right?
By the way, we were looking for like a Cubs one for you, but didn't find one. It was like a cowboy hat. Didn't have
The big foam ones.
That would have been funny.
No, I
I want you to wear.
came right from
We'll
Wrigley.
find what we have to wear to the next World Cup.
Well, I gave Taras one of my cowboy hats, so I was gonna make cowboy hats my own at one point, but the manufacturer I was getting them from wasn't great, so I ended up giving Taras one of these cowboy hats. He wore that cowboy hat everywhere. They hit at WealthCon. And they're like, we met your friend, the cowboy, and I'm like, who, Taras? And they're like, yeah, Taras is from Ukraine. He's no cowboy, you know, like.
I think that's what I said to him. I was like, why are you wearing a cowboy hat?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, but it just makes. I mean, you got to do something that's brand specific, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be Airbnbs technically, but like I like your guitar idea. Like even if you had like a ukulele, just strapped around your back, carrying it around, people be like, "Why do you have a ukulele?" I was like, "Oh, because I like to play." But we're at a real estate event, so yeah.
I mean, you used to walk around with your guitar legit everywhere you went.
Or
but-
just even the case. Yeah. Just the case. Like you
take
pack it full of socks or something.
you take your computer out of it, like
Hold on, guys.
Well, it's like Insta Chava. He walks around with the
Yeah.
with the
Exactly.
signage on the back, and it's just something unique, right? That
yeah.
nobody else has.
We actually got one of
have one of
those
those
too,
too.
you know.
Yeah.
But that was Chava. He's like, you guys just. It's on Amazon. Go get it back. Oh, okay.
Well, I told him I want one with a cowboy hat, but on the top of my cowboy hat had the LED like big price. He's like, "We'll figure it out."
Done. Yeah.
So
that'll
we have a
be easy.
podcast in Vegas at the end of the month.
Oh,
so,
cool.
So we'll figure it out. We'll get something going.
Are you going in the car with him?
I don't know what we're gonna do yet. He's like, am I going on yours? Are you going on mine? I'm like, bro, I just want to have a conversation. I don't care where we go, you know. So we might do the car. We might do a setup like this. So you guys like to go to the lake? I saw some boating.
That is
Yeah.
a creative finance lake house, actually.
Really?
That was a deal.
Yeah.
How did that
Deal.
go?
That was our first creative deal, and she actually found the house. The lake is.
It was on the
is-
MLS.
It was on the MLS.
not
But the
rocket
lake
science.
is a lake I grew up on. My grandparents had a house on the lake, and ever since I was probably 9 or 10, we would go up there in the summers and hang out. And my dad and his 8 brothers built the first house, and then they sold that one. And they built another house. So I spent a lot of time in this lake, and she liked it. We went up there for like camping trips with my family.
I love the lake too.
Oh,
we
man,
grew up
it's a
right in
great
North
lake.
Dakota, Lake Skakawea. We used to go out all the time.
So nice. But yeah, she found this house. It was in rough shape. You know, the boat dock was like falling into the lake. You know, there's a lot of work needed to be done. So I just called up. You know, I was really diving into pace and creative, just kind of trying to figure all that out. And I talked to the listing agent, and I said, would this seller be open to, you know, looking at this in a more of a creative way? You know, because we were originally going to go in at like a 10% down second home loan.
Yep.
And interest rates back then were like 2.5%.
Yeah.
So she's like, you know what? I think they would be open to that because the house is in such rough shape. So I gave them 4 offers. I gave them all cash. It was like almost
Your anchor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like making a mad low.
Yeah.
And then I had a couple thrown in there creatively with terms that I really wanted, and then I had one that was terms like I didn't want, so I made it like.
And one was just, conventional.
One was like, yeah, this is conventional. I'll give you, I think we offered
But it
like
was-
139,000 all cash, and they had it listed at like 239.
Okay.
Or no, it was like 270 because we got it for we ended up getting it for
was higher,
239. But yeah, we came back and forth. I sent them 4, and they countered my cash deal, and I said no, and they picked the one that I was hoping they were going to pick for.
Yeah.
So it was like 0% interest, 10% down. So I paid the listing agent's commission.
Yep.
So I'm a realtor, so I just wiped mine out
Yep.
on my side, but I paid hers 6 months later. So it gave us time to fix up the house. So we brought like I think $7,000 to the table to close the deal.
Yeah, it wasn't a down payment. We paid closing costs and we paid her commission, and it was 0% interest, 0% down payment. But we asked if we could do it 6 months later to give us time to work on the property and start making some money.
And she was okay with
It was
that?
a short-term rental.
Yeah.
Wow.
She was okay with that.
She's like, this thing ain't gonna sell any other way.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, the boat dock, I got a quote for it. It was like $60,000 to have it removed and have a new one built.
Yep.
At that
I
point,
think it was higher initially, but then
It might have been 80,
That
I
was
can't remember.
but that was
so we were like, all right,
It's
well, we're
expensive.
not messing with this thing yet. Let's get this house ready.
Yep.
The house wasn't terrible. You know, it needed new flooring, paint, some fixtures.
It was like a porch off the house that was just all nasty mold, and that he like actually fixed up
If you
himself
look at
with
the
his
house,
dad.
it's on Airbnb now, so like we booked all the time. But like the back porch, you see before and after, it's just gross, man. There was like, I'm sure you guys probably have those mud hornets or
Oh yeah.
they were the like hives or whatever. The mud blotches were like all around the house, and I felt so bad because her mom.
So was the seller an older couple, or were they just
I
kind of?
wouldn't.
So, no, they passed away.
No,
Okay.
no, they didn't. It was like
I thought-
a couple. It was like a partnership. So that's what the listing agent's a little worried about because there's 3 people that own it. It's like a couple and then another guy. And
Oh,
the
I
guy
thought they
that
were
owns-
siblings. Okay.
They might be related in some.
Nobody was taking care of it, in other words. So
Right.
it's like it was your job to take
It was
care
a
of it.
rental,
Yeah.
and those people must have had 6-7 dogs, and the place
This place
was
smelled like
nasty.
pee. And
It was gross. Yeah, and I slept there like a couple times when I was first working on it. I'm like, oh, this is brutal.
I love that. I'll go sleep outside in the tent.
Yeah, seriously.
we should
It
have.
was
It
that
was
bad.
cold. It was disgusting.
But it was like, 3-bedroom, 1 bath on this side, and then they had this like addition. It was like huge, like another bedroom, and then they have like an attached garage and then a detached garage, and it was like about an acre of land, huge frontage on the lake. So we were like, we saw the vision of like what it could be,
Yep.
and we knew it was going to take time. So we do have a balloon payment on it that's coming up in about a year.
Yep.
So we've already been making money on this property now.
So you got it on a
But
balloon.
it's
We do have it on a balloon, so we will pay him off
Is it a full balloon or is it an interest only balloon?
full balloon. So
Okay.
we're not paying any interest at all.
Zero interest.
So 0%. So everything is principal. The $1,200 that we're paying a month is knocking it down.
Okay.
And then at the end of the 3 years or whatever it was,
Yep.
we have to pay him that whole.
Yep.
And our goal is going to refinance.
But yeah, we did tear down the dock. We got a new one. We got a boat last year, which was
Well, we did.
fun.
We didn't do the same type of boat dock, which I'm not regretting, but at the same time, it has, now that we have a boat, it's like, man, I wish we would have put the boat dock with the lift and everything, which would have
Yeah.
been much more expensive. So right now we just have we have like a boardwalk with a dock,
Yeah.
but we can't really leave the boat all year long.
We have to really block out dates because it's just booked like crazy.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because like this is in Southern Illinois, and like we get, year round like rentals. I mean, it's not as hot in the winter, but we get a lot of like construction crews, and we've had quite a few like solar crews that will book it just to stay there. And they're like working in the area, so it's been pretty good. But it's a 4-bedroom house, so we really enjoy it.
Does lake ice over?
Sometimes, but not
ice
this
fishing.
last year it didn't.
We discovered that a lot of construction crews eat like little kids. It's all like they leave like cases of like SpaghettiOs and Pop-Tarts, and then when we come, the kids are like, "Oh my gosh, look what they left us!" I'm like, "Oh my god, it's like all
I felt
processed
bad. I
crap."
almost called that guy because he left he must have went to Costco
I don't even know they
day
sell
or
that
two
crap at
before they got
Costco.
moved because he left cases of
SpaghettiOs. I
SpaghettiOs
haven't
and
seen those since the
Pop-Tarts.
90s.
He didn't go to Costco. What happened was they got an Airbnb and they're like, dude, we got a kitchen now. And they're like, we can make our own food. So they went and got all their regular stuff, but then they also got steaks, and they're like, we can just make steaks every night.
Yeah.
So they had that stuff from the very beginning. They just never used it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, my kids ate a bunch of it, and then some of our other guests must have ate it too.
By the time we came back, it was like dwindling down. I'm like,
SpaghettiOs and Pop-Tarts.
Just leave it in the cupboards. Hopefully
Yeah.
somebody eats it.
yeah. In the past few years, I mean, and we talked a little bit about, I guess, goals and things. Blaine would love to have like an Airbnb, like essentially from Chicago all the way down, like almost like every state, like on the way to Florida. We do have one in Florida as well. And just kind of like on the drive down, or maybe, you know, even
Every state that has a baseball stadium.
yeah,
There
I
you
don't know.
go.
I feel like you've got
Right next door.
He wants a lot of them, but
Doesn't
he
need to
wants
be
them
right
really
next door.
spread out.
Yeah.
But honestly, like we said before, like with systems, I'm like, we can't just have one in like
Yeah.
Nashville, right? Like or in Gatlinburg. Like we need multiple. It's like
Yeah.
we need systems. Like
Or you put it into a managing company.
Right.
And then you make significantly less on it.
right.
It's
And I mean,
higher
if
risk.
we were to use us, I suppose we could use somebody else for management too. But you know, for us, it's not even worth to like do that with one property and do all that work. But that would be kind of his ideal. But we did, in the past few years, we did buy that lake house, which we do enjoy with our kids. We have an A-frame in Wisconsin on 2.5 acres, close to the Dells. So it's like, you know, water park capital of the world or something. So we can do day trips there. But lots of, you know, it's just really beautiful. It's actually very remote, but it's about 15 minutes away from the Dells. And for us, just like the hustle and bustle of like life,
Yep.
you know, between that A-frame and that lake house currently, like it is just the peace, like
Yeah.
the zen, the peace, the quiet.
That's what-
It's really what we're looking for more now.
I was looking at one because I had an Airbnb in the past and it completely disaster. Like you said, the one
Yeah.
Airbnb never works, right? Plus the house was a white elephant in the neighborhood and a bunch of problems with it. I was like, oh yeah, Airbnb, this will be easy. Yeah, ended up losing a lot of money. I finally got rid of it, right? I was like,
man.
thank God. I was looking at another one up in North Dakota because it's right on the lake. And I was like, yeah, we could buy it, or Airbnb it out. In the wintertime, they do ice fishing, Airbnb that out for ice fishing, get, you know, hooked up with the locals. I'm from that area, so it wouldn't be that hard to find somebody. And then I went and looked at it a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh man, it's falling apart. They didn't want to wheel and deal. It's just like, okay, like not that one, but that's kind of my goal. Like,
Right.
I was like, I just want to break even on it. All I want to do is
Right.
be able to go there and have time, let the Airbnb or whatever it is pay for it, or the rental. Just can I go there for a week every year?
Yep. And
Absolutely.
That was really like what she was saying, like kind of my mentality with the lake house and even up in Wisconsin. It's like, if this thing breaks even, I don't care. We're going to use it. Right.
Yep.
But now I'm like, I want all these other ones in different areas. And then I'm like, wait a second. If they all break even, we're going to lose some money at some point.
yeah.
Like maybe we just buy a couple that we know are going to make a ton of money and then we'll go rent somebody else's Airbnb in those
Yeah.
spots. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't break even, but you know, they may, but they still do well.
No, yeah, we haven't.
But it's cool. Like, so our 7-year-old daughter for Mother's Day, she made this like book and it's like all about mom. And one of the pages was like, what was it? What are your favorite places? It was like, what are your favorite places in the world? And she drew and wrote about, she goes, our Airbnbs. And she drew 4 of the Airbnbs. And like, one was like in like central Illinois, but it has a game room, which is pretty cool. Where we're like, why? Like, but I mean, that was kind of cool to see. And it's like, okay, so because when you're like, why, you know, what are you doing this for? Because I mean, there's, you know what I mean? These are properties. I mean, things go wrong. There's drama. Wisconsin was it was like the longest project we ever did because, no offense to Wisconsin people, but apparently nobody wants to work up there because we would ask for them to give us quotes. They would go to the property and they would never give us the quote,
Yeah.
or they wouldn't show up to do the work. So ultimately we had to send Chicago people up there and it was just such a headache, you know, but then now, as I see that and she brings that home from school, I was like, okay, like this is cool. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? This is really cool.
Well, it makes you sound like you just bounce around from Airbnb to Airbnb.
We do. And honestly,
That's what her teacher thinks.
Yeah, like they don't actually have a house. They just have a whole bunch of Airbnbs
Honey,
and they just
are you
constantly
homeless?
and the thing is, we do it is like when we have some vacancy, we're like, hey kids, grab your backpack. We are on the road. And we
Yeah.
go, we drive up and block the dates then.
I wish you had a picture of that picture because the best part about it is she wrote the names of the cities that they're in her like phonetic 7-year-old spelling way.
Okay.
She's in
They're
first
all
grade.
spelled wrong, but like you totally could sound it out. And it was like, oh, this is so cute. You know, the way she wrote it.
You grew up in Poland.
Yeah. So
How
I
did
know.
that come to be? How did you get over here?
Well, I think there's more Polish people in Chicago than there are living in Warsaw. So,
Okay.
so that was an interesting fact. Now, my mom my grandmother moved, my mom's mom, my grandmother moved to the U.S. when my mom was 11, and didn't really know her very well. But then when she essentially sent green cards to all 4 of her kids and their families. Back then it was actually very easy to get one, but not. Some people think I married him for his papers, but no, actually I didn't need him for that. So yeah, and so then when I was in the 1st grade, my parents moved to Chicago, and my mom, I think, really wanted to build up that relationship with her mom. Also, it was like, Polish was like under Russian communist control. There was a lot of issues back then. Like, even if you had money, like my mom told me that, like, we'd go into the grocery store and it would just be like a jar of pickles there. There was like nothing on the shelves. It was kind of like COVID. Well, I know you don't really remember much of COVID.
Well, no,
but
I was out in COVID. I was
But it was like early COVID when you go to the store and there's nothing there. So so that, I remember she said she had she had to go to the doctor and tell the doctor, or had the doctor write out a form saying that I had a gluten allergy, so I can get some formula, because there was no formula in the store. Like, wow. It's crazy. And she said that they were only able to get 1 pound of meat a month. And so my dad was away in the Army, and so essentially they didn't count him, but my dad always came home for the weekends. And so now it was the 3 of us. So I was a baby, so whatever, I didn't eat it, right? But for 2 adults, 1 pound of meat, we make like 2 pounds of meat a night for like us and our 2 kids.
Like, I make a pound of meat for myself every night.
I know. Can you imagine? So I mean, that's also like why Polish food is a lot of potatoes, because like you couldn't even get it, so people had to be creative. So a lot of that was happening, and so ultimately we went from like being like upper middle class in like Poland to like extremely poor in the U.S. The first week my parents moved to Chicago, they were robbed. So every single dollar they brought back with them from Poland, I want to say maybe it was $5,000, something like that. They were robbed and it was stolen. Wow. And I didn't know that until I was later an adult. I just thought we were poor. And we moved around. Initially we moved in with my grandma. Like, I lived with like I don't know, it was like 12 of us in like a 2-bedroom condo. Like, I don't even know.
That's why you love having 12 houses now. So
you're like, I mean, I think there's an obsession there.
I just need space.
And then we kept moving. Like, every 3 months we would move. And we so when you hear about house hacking, Blaine kind of dabbled a little bit into house hacking. Well, I did too, except we were the house hackies. We rented out 2 bedrooms in a man's like single family home, and like we shared this house with him. It was crazy. We had lived in people's basements, and like some of these apartments were like infested with cockroaches. It was really gross and nasty. So that was such an experience, because I think my parents were very much on the fence. Like, they were going to move back to Poland. Like, oh my God, this is horrible here. Like, Chicago sucks. We got robbed. Like, we
go back to 1 jar of pickles and one pound of beef a month.
We don't know what to do. Like, we can eat, but like we have no money, and we're living with rodents.
I love the story her dad always tells, because when they came here, it was 1991, I believe, and that's when the Bulls won the NBA Finals. Okay. So they were like driving through the city when there was like cars tipped over, like fires everywhere. They didn't know what was going on.
we just got away from.
And he tells me that story. He's like, I was driving down 55 and there was like smoke and fires. I was like, what is going on?
I don't think I heard that story.
Oh, it's so funny.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, it's the Bulls, baby.
Could you imagine though, like moving here for the first time and seeing all that?
But yeah, I mean, obviously over time things got better. My parents worked nonstop. I was young, but I had to kind of like just like my dad worked nights, but he slept till noon, and my mom worked. So I was like pretty much hanging by myself till like my dad woke up around noon or 1. But at the same time, like so many of those experiences like taught me like, really like work hard. Don't take things for granted, and also like resilience, right? That's what I was gonna say. So when Blaine kind of brought this whole investing idea to me, at the time we were living in like, I don't know, a 1,400 square foot house. I mean, there was 4 of us, but I mean, one of our kids were very small, and and I was kind of like, okay. And then he was hesitant, and he's like, well, what happens? Like, what if, we lose all our money, and like, what if we lose our house? And I was like, well, shit, like my grandma, my cousins, like my uncles, we all lived in like a 2-bedroom condo on, you know what I mean? Like in Chicago, like it's going to be just like, we're going to be fine. Like we're going to be just fine.
It's funny because a lot of my friends, or other people we network with, it's like, how did you get her on board?
Yeah.
And it wasn't like that at all. Like most of my friends, like, oh, I want to invest, but my wife won't let me, or my wife this or my wife that. The minute I told her, she's like, it's done, let's go. And I'm like, wait, I was not expecting this. I thought I was gonna have to like twist your arm, and then I was like, oh wait, it's like, wait, hold on. And I'm like backing up a little bit. So it was.
Well, she was like worst case scenario.
Yeah.
You know, I'm okay with that. I've done that my whole life. You're like worst case scenario. I get this whole new experience that I don't know if I'm gonna like or not.
I don't really like pickles.
Yeah. You look at your worst case scenario, you look at your own experiences, and you know what I mean, like down to all of it, like our family and like our core values, our family like is so, and our marriage is like has been so strong that we talked about this before, like, because there were times where there were a few years we were going through infertility and stuff, and we're like, whatever, like we can go live out on the beach. And I used to bartend when I was in college. Well, I live on the beach and I can bartend and we will be happy. Like that's always, you know, been my mindset. But also to think like, okay, well, whatever. Like if I can't live in this neighborhood because I took this risk, like my parents took this risk by moving like to a different continent. And they went from doing great and like struggled. So my grandfather had a mechanic business, and it was like the place where you go fix your car. So like my dad was set, like if he lived in Poland. But you know what I mean? Like, but they decided to take the harder road.
So you could have an opportunity to do what you do now.
Right. And I mean, I think that's what this country is all about. And it sucks because like so many people take that for granted. I was having a conversation where we have this one tenant trying to like, they're trying to go through eviction. I was talking to another investor, and this rent is only for this investor's property is like only like $600. And I was like, there is no way in God's name that a person, especially like in Illinois, the minimum wage is actually pretty high considering it's like $15. I know some states it's like $7. But like there's no way in hell a man in his 30s cannot come up with $600 for rent. Like that is not the issue. They're going to figure it out. Like, this is where you can do this, right? And so, obviously, there was another reason why this guy's not paying rent. But
you said you were first grade when you moved here? So English came naturally for you, or how did that happen?
Chicago streets.
No, honestly, so when I went into teaching, I was teaching many students that were bilingual, just because that was really how I learned.
Tell them the circle story, though.
So like when I was in first grade, I remember my mom picked me up from school, and she was like, "How was school today?" And I was like jumping up and down, like, "It was so good, it was so good. I learned a word." And she was like, "What?" And it was like, "Circle." Like, circle. And she was like, "Oh, okay." And she was like, "Well, wait a minute, like that, what else?" And she was like, I'm like, "That's it. I learned a word." I learned one word. I remember that. And the only reason I learned it was because in that moment, the teacher lifted the damn shape and she said the word when she showed the visual of the shape. And so one of my master's degrees is in teaching bilingual, bicultural children, and that was something that was passionate to me too, by being able to reach out to kids. And I taught different grades along the way, but many times they would put
the core memory.
Yeah, I mean, it was just because like I sat in school all day long and I learned one damn word. One word.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know anything. But over time, you know, you kind of, and when kids are like little sponges and they learn so fast. But yeah, I'm actually fluent in Polish. I went to Polish school every Saturday. I did my, which is called matura, which is like a test you have to take to like graduate. So I did all the things, and I'm actually fluent. So when I do travel there, a lot of times people don't believe me when I tell them that I actually speak English, and I'm more comfortable in English, I guess. But with my family, I speak Polish, so.
Yeah.
Blaine just kind of hangs.
You were in the classroom, you're in the headlights when I'm like me with Monica's family. I'm like, just waiting for that one word that I know. And every once in a while, cerveza, hey!
Yeah, so you know.
Yeah, it's like every once in a while, like they'll say something and I'll be like, oh, I caught that. And then Monica will be like, oh, she said that, you know, this morning they had to wake up at 6 o'clock. And I was like, yeah, I heard something about that, you know? You know, so.
That's where I'm at right now. Like I can pick up a lot of what, at least where the conversation is going. Yeah. But if I try to spit any Polish out of it's just really hard.
But we took the kids, and Blaine went as well.
Yeah, we just went
to Poland just a month and a half ago, and our kids actually don't speak Polish. They don't really speak Polish at all. I mean, we speak English all the time. It's a really difficult language. And I was a little worried about them too. Like how were they going to be? And we went, and my grandparents, it was my grandpa's 90th birthday, but my grandparents were like around. I have aunts and uncles and cousins, and they're like, oh, you know what I mean? And I wasn't worried about him because, you know, he's an adult. Like he's been around my crazy Polish family.
Yeah.
Like it's fine. Like he's going to be fine. But the kids were so great. And it was honestly really beautiful to see. Like there could be like a language barrier, but we did notice like music really brings everybody together. And like when Blaine would just pull out his guitar, or the kids would like sing or like do a dance or something, it was very, very cool. And it was like we didn't really need that. And like obviously family, you know you're connected because you're family no matter what. So it was cool.
Do you speak like any other thing like Russian or?
No, we do have a couple of tenants that speak Ukrainian, but no, I mean in actual Poland, and I'm assuming Ukraine is similar, usually they're learning 3 languages.
Yeah.
So it's usually Polish, English, and one more language. And it's usually Russian or Czech or
Well,
Ukrainian.
when we were in Poland a couple months ago, a lot of people from Ukraine have moved to Poland.
Because of the war,
So when
right.
we were like at restaurants or bars, like her mom and dad, like they were speaking Polish, and they're like, those guys, they're Ukrainian. They could tell like by the dialect or whatever.
But yeah, I was speaking with a tenant just the other day, and he's Ukrainian, and I'm like, I don't really know, like, I don't know what language he's speaking to me. I'm understanding the gist of what he's saying, but I'm like, I don't really know if this is Polish or Ukrainian. And I'm like kind of understanding what he's trying to say.
Yeah, well, you pick up on like the words and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy because now in Poland you have Ukrainian subtitles when you're watching TV, like regular TV. And we were like, okay, kids. So we went to Wrocław, which is like the 3rd largest city in Poland, and that's near where I'm from. And we're like, okay, kids, we're gonna go into the city, and like we're like, you're gonna be fully immersed. It's gonna be Polish, blah blah blah. And we went there, and like everybody spoke English. Like, what the heck? Like they're like, oh my god, this is so easy. Like, but then we went to like my smaller town, like I'm actually from, which is like 40 minutes away, and they were immersed, but they were trying to find their person that speaks English. But
The coolest thing ever. Well, not the coolest thing ever, but
The coolest thing ever.
Yeah,
Since
definitely.
sliced bread. You're like, oh.
yeah, right. She went with her mom and dad and the grandparents to go do something. I took the kids to the mall is in Poland. So like, we're 3 English speaking people. And like she said, a lot of people spoke English while we were at the stores trying to figure out what we were going to get. But I'm trying to get out of the parking garage, and everything is in Polish, and the writing and everything, and it would not take, like I could not get out. And I'm like going on Google Translate, and I'm trying to like figure out, I'm trying to type everything in. I can't get the letters, and then I see the camera button. I'm like, what the heck? Click the camera button, you put it over the sign, it changed all the words to English. I was like, get out of here. So I picked it up, I just went like this, and I'm watching the picture change, and like all the words
What is that?
on my screen.
on Google Translate?
It was on Google Translate. So, because I saw the camera, and I was like, oh, maybe I just snap a picture and it's gonna like change it. No, it changed it while I was like viewing it. And I was like, this is amazing. And it said, oh, make sure you press this button first. And
I'm going to Mexico in June, so I'm gonna have to use that. Download that on my phone.
Yeah, it was awesome because we went into the Czech Republic, and same thing. I was like showing her, I'm like, look at this. Like we went to some like rock formations, and we didn't know like how much it was a park or where to go, and I'm just like, check this out.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this
Technology
is
is crazy. Can't imagine with like AI coming.
And all the chat GPT stuff too.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, like I taught literacy for so many years. Like these kids don't even need to
Yeah.
Like, oh my
Yeah.
God.
pretty soon you're just gonna have to think. And it's
Yeah.
just gonna,
Well, they're like,
So
well, it's
weird.
cheating if you use Chat GTP, and it's like, is it? How are you gonna know? I mean, because you could tell, like, write like a 5th grader,
yeah.
Right.
you know. So it's not gonna be like, oh, well, that's a too complex word or something. Like, if you're good enough at it,
Yep.
ChatGPT, you are a 5th grader.
yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah. We've even used it on listings. Like my first listing I read from a realtor, I was like, hey, that was a really good description. He's like, yeah, I just put an AI.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And like, that's right when ChatGPT came out, right? And I was like, oh,
You definitely
okay.
have to utilize a lot of technology with all of these listings growing.
Yeah.
So we use
How,
it too.
how are you guys using it like with Airbnb right now?
So yeah, I mean,
Listing descriptions.
and then sometimes even for social media.
Yeah.
So I think you commented like, "Oh my God, Lily, this is like a really great description."
Oh, really? No.
Like, thanks so much.
I worked so hard on
I
it.
edited it to make sure
Oh
it
my gosh,
sounded right.
I fell for the AI. Here I thought you had like thought about that all week.
No.
Well, you
awesome.
gave the description, right? You gave the prompt to ChatGPT.
Yeah. Took me about
You're like,
10 seconds.
give me a social media post about how to network.
It was like,
I said create a list of, what was it, like the 10 reasons why networking is, important with real estate investing.
I
There
thought
it
I
is.
even shared it to my story. I thought it was so good.
now he's never going to share anything of yours.
Honestly,
I invited you on the podcast because no, I'm just kidding.
I know.
ChatGPT, how do you get someone to invite you on a podcast?
Yeah. But it's so funny because I what you had on there made sense. Obviously, you knew it made sense.
No, I mean, there was some things we edited for sure. It didn't only take 10 seconds, but
Yeah.
it was
But
very
so many-
simple. But
so
I was
many-
like, oh, it's,
So many people just don't know how. I mean, the post was about networking, right?
Yeah.
So many people just don't know how to network. They ask right away, and I've been thinking about, now that you tell me about AI, maybe I'll just use AI to do it. But I've been thinking about like having like this whole post or whole video about it, because so many people just go in. They're like, oh, I can do these things for you, and we should do something together. And that works pretty good when you're like on the same basis level. Like, okay, we can collab, we'll do something together. But like when you're trying to actually try to get a connection that is going to mean a lot to you, people are always like say Ryan Pineda, right? They'll go up to Ryan and be like, hey, I can do all these things. And he's like, yeah, I got 10 of you, right? Like,
sure.
why do I need you?
for sure.
So like one of the things with networking I do is just constantly give value. Like I always expect, no matter who it is, I just try to give as much value as possible as often as I can, right? Value. That way, when I need something, I can ask, and it's like, oh, well, he does everything for me, right? And you can usually get what you need then. But that's what most people, I think, don't understand about networking. It's like they think there's no costs in it. There's a lot of costs in networking,
Oh yeah.
right?
For us, it's I feel like we are constantly providing value. A lot of times it's to newbie investors or people that just have questions about real estate. And when Blaine first started his Instagram, he was a realtor. We hadn't owned any properties then. But as he started investing, he would put it out there like, hey, if anyone has any questions, like I'm here to sit with you on a call. And it really got to a point where I feel like you were scheduled for like 5 calls a week, like hour calls. Like, and I'm just like, wow, that's like almost like your whole day is like gone between lunch or whatever. Like you almost have your whole day like gone. Like if you were to schedule them in one day. But he was just, helping people along the way. And like now we do know like, okay, we have to make sure this is not an hour-long phone call. But sometimes it's like we're dropping our kids off to practice, like whatever. We'll hop on calls with people. But I remember someone on social media, like you made like a post about it, and someone on Instagram was like, oh, really? You're just going to offer this for free out of the goodness of your heart? And I was like, what a jerk.
Yeah, because that's what we have been doing.
Like, I'm like, we've been doing that for years. I'm like, I don't know.
So has that paid off long term?
Of course. I mean, just the people that you network with and talk to and add value to, they stick in your circle. And whenever, we see each other or different things are happening and they chime in, they seem to offer back, and I'm never the type of person that's looking for something in return, if someone asks me a question. So I think it always pays off, We haven't gotten into like true coaching, where we're like charging people for that. But at this point, it's like we learned something and we're off, being educators. We'll offer it to, if you want to come network and talk to us, like we're happy to chat.
Well, and I think also like there's the structure, like coaching, right? You can do the paid structure, or you can do it like Jared Norton, just put everything on YouTube. Right.
Right.
And now you do this, you're coaching. Like I learned a lot of stuff from Jory. And like I had him on my podcast a couple weeks ago, and I'm like so thankful he came on. And I was telling him, I was like, dude, literally I learned like all the contract stuff from you. Right. never given Jerry a dime unless they're AdSense, right?
Right.
But like all the stuff I learned, so you don't have to go to coaching. If you're gonna do coaching, you don't have to do the paid route.
Right.
Like it just has to be leveraged if you don't go pay route. Do YouTube videos or whatever.
Right. And we did start our YouTube channel, and that was a big part of it too, because I'm like, well, maybe some of these phone calls that we're going on, like, let's just maybe think smarter, not harder, right? Like maybe if they have a specific question, like, here, watch this YouTube video, it'll answer your question, and then let's schedule your call, and I could talk about your specific situation.
Yep.
So it'll just kind of cut, like, it's not like we don't want to offer that anymore, but we also, like, we have gotten burned quite a bit too.
Yeah.
For me, like, I'm like the short-term rental queen. So like, everybody's asking about all their advice, and they turn around, they self-manage, which is fine. Like, it is what it is, but it's like, don't sit here and waste my time if that was your intention from the beginning,
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, and when Blaine speaks with like his clients where they're selling a house or they're considering selling their house, like right now the interest rates are really high. Just heard a conversation you had with your client yesterday, just in passing, but he was like, you know what? I think you should turn this into a rental. Like, he could have just totally had a double sale, like, sell your house, we'll get you your new one. And he told her, like, I think you should utilize it as a rental, just as a rental, like, where he would get no commission from that. But at the same time, like, that's why he has so many return clients,
Yeah.
and that's why his business grew so much. And could you just have like a 2.2
Yeah,
$2 million
$5 million week last week
of sales.
5
Wow.
clients under contracts. Yeah.
In 1 week. So, I mean, but that comes full circle. And we've been to like kid parties. I was just, we went to like a kid party a couple months ago, and like one of his clients was like, oh, this is my amazing real estate agent. Oh my God. He's like building him up like as if you were
Why
like
are you
some
laughing about
superhero.
Yeah, like what?
And I
Why
was
is
like,
that? Why is that
like
so
a
good?
5-year-old birthday party. I'm
right
like, okay, like.
Well, I think that bears a lot of fruit when you always do good. Like the good thing, or what's the saying? Doing the right thing is always the right thing.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, it
So
is.
that's how I try to do my stuff too. And like, I mean, try, right? Like I'm not always perfect, but that's how I try to like everything I do, like especially with my clients, right? Where we're like one of the last deals we did, one of the deals 6 months ago we did. They had bought some property from us. They were wanting some more property. And they're like, hey, will you do the same rate? And I knew one of the things they were struggling with was doing the cleanup. So I was like, yeah, I'll do the same rate, but I'm also going to throw in 100 free hours or credit hours, which we didn't do on the first sale. But now I had that capability, so I did it on the second sale. And they're like, what? And I was like, yeah, well, you guys, bought the first 60. You guys were the reason I got help from the beginning. I could just sell you this for the same price and everybody be still good. Well, why don't I help you out even more?
Right.
And that's one thing I try to do for my clients, is do the right thing, even though it sometimes doesn't make sense on the bottom line.
I like it. Yep.
What are you working on? Like, what's one thing that you're working on right now that you want to share?
We're stabilizing our rental portfolio and, structuring that into a system that can kind of work on its own. But then at the same time, her kind of short-term rental co-hosting business has been growing. So we're trying to stabilize or kind of hire into that position to help kind of organize that a little bit better.
So if somebody would want to come work for you, how could they get in contact with you?
Ooh. Well, we are Crush It with the Koseks on everything, on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, but it's Crush It with a K because we are Koseks with a K. So Crush It with the Koseks. Super easy to find us, but yeah.
And then we always working on reels and podcasting and stuff like that. Just having fun, man. Playing guitar, playing with the kids, sports.
I'm expecting to see another guitar video come out.
I know it's been a while.
I think that would be cool. I think it would take off, a little thing you didn't know about me. And now they'll be watching for it.
It has actually been a while, yeah. I mean, before I'd throw a couple on stories or whatever. I'm like just jamming a little bit, but yeah.
Song about real estate
She
Airbnbs.
actually just said
I
something
just
like
told
that.
you, I'm like,
You should make a
parody,
or like a song about
That would be
real
great.
estate
Like
investing.
if you had like a cover song.
yeah.
So you had like the same melody, kind of sounds like you're singing the song, but it's actually about Airbnbs or something. That'd be funny. I think
Yeah.
they'd go off.
verbatim almost what she just said to me the other day.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, it is a great idea. We were just talking about it before we came. No, I'm just kidding. But well, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
Soon.
Yeah, this was so good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, this has been great.
Thank you.
Thank you. So fun.